This is Pastor Roger L. Green, Sr., pastor of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. We're welcoming you to our worship services on Sunday morning. Sunday school begin at 8 a.m. Worship services begin at 9 a.m. Come and grow with us, a place of faith, family, and fellowship. We would love to have you. Come see us Sunday morning. We'll see you there. Be blessed.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.
Good afternoon, Central Louisiana. I'm Jack, and this is a special Friday edition of the Let's Talk Show here on Urbancast. Today's conversation is made possible by our silver sponsor, Acadian Ambulance. We appreciate their continued commitment to supporting meaningful conversations in our community. Today, we are addressing something that has shaken families across Louisiana. Over the weekend and throughout the week, we, learned more and more about the situation that's happened in Shreveport, where it claimed the lives of 8 children and left the community searching for answers, or Louisiana searching for answers. But it's been a pretty rocky week here in Louisiana as a whole this week. But we're here to talk about this situation and situations like this. Domestic violence is real. It exists in more homes than people realize. And in many cases, people don't know where to turn or what help is out there and available for you. That's why today we're going to have this conversation, a conversation that matters. We're joined with Louis, coordinator for the Family Justice Center here in Central Louisiana, an organization providing critical services to survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and family abuse, all under one roof. If you're watching and you have a question about resources here, or you just have a question in general, put it in the comments. If it's pertinent to what we're talking about, we may bring it into the conversation. Louis, with all that said, how are you doing today, man?
Jack, thank you. I appreciate you holding this conversation, especially on the wake of what happened recently in Shreveport, in Baton Rouge. We're doing well, and we're excited to be able to spread the message about, who we are and what services we provide, because if there's any way we can intervene at any point in time and prevent things like this, that's our goal. We really want to just kind of get that awareness out there. You can't prevent everything, but if you can empower the community, let them know about the resources that are available to them. That's the best that we can do.
All right, but Louis, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with the Family Justice Center here in Northeast Parish.
I'm in a newly created position. I'm the communications coordinator. As we spoke previously, communication is key, awareness is key. And we have a great organization here in Central Louisiana, the Family Justice Center. We provide critical services. We've been around for a while. We have a great staff on board. But unfortunately, when I ask people in the community about us and what we do, and a lot of them say they don't know about us. They haven't heard about us. So I'm the communications coordinator. I work on location. I hear the stories. I see the things coming through. And I really just try to help advocate for our services, educate the community, work with partners to get our services out there. We have, like I said, we have a great team in-house, but one role we didn't have was, we don't market and advertise. We're a nonprofit, but I'm working to create partnerships with a lot of hospitals and police departments and organizations and churches to just spread the awareness and message that, like you mentioned earlier, domestic violence is prevalent. No one talks about it. It affects a lot of people in many different ways. So my goal is to just really get out in the community, immerse myself with all these organizations, and to really spread awareness about the Family Justice Center of Central Louisiana.
So Louis, who for those that may not be familiar and in the back of the room, who do you serve? Is it a certain group of people that you serve, or who can pick up that phone and call you guys?
Well, we serve 8 parishes. We are surrounding parishes.
Mm-hmm.
We're located in Rapides Parish. Our 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 faith house is one of the places we use, and it's in Avoyelles Parish. But we serve the 8 surrounding parishes. I'm trying to think it's Rapides, Wynn, LaSalle. I'm looking at the list here. But it's not just Rapides Parish. Again, it's the 8 surrounding parishes that we serve. I'm sorry. But yeah, not just Rapides Parish.
But not only the surrounding parishes, but let's put a real what issues, just a fight between a husband and a wife. Who is it, when these kind of issues are going on, who are the people that are qualified to say, knock on the door or call you guys and say, is it anybody, or is it folk with insurance, or who can actually give you guys a call and say, I need some help, things are not going right in my family?
And I'm glad you framed it that way when you talked money and stuff like that. It's anyone involved in domestic violence. That's the issue, or that sort of the umbrella: domestic violence, domestic abuse, sexual assault, human trafficking. Anyone underneath that, anyone and everyone. We get high profile people. We get restaurant workers, servers. We get doctors, police force, military. We do not. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate, nor do we, as far as who we provide services to. And the great thing is we are a nonprofit organization. So, we just had Sin Law Day at the legislature. We go down there sometimes during appropriations, and we fight for monies to provide these services. So anyone could come in and receive these services without fear of a bill or having to pay for anything. So anyone and everyone, and these services are life-saving services that we provide. So we really want to get that message out there that don't feel like, or don't worry about any sort of billing or money involved, because most importantly, your safety and your life is really most important. So we work really hard. We just had our largest fundraiser, the Bayou Boil for Justice, and that's what that was for. It was to secure monies to provide these services, because we never know if the money's going to always be there. So we want to make it to where it's a no cost to anyone. It currently is, and our goal is to make it always that way. When it's with domestic violence, the last thing you would want someone to fear is if they're going to have a bill with something. So we want them to have no worries involved. Give us a call anytime, anyone, there are family justice centers around the United States. There is one in Shreveport, for example, but we serve our immediate 8 parish area. But again, I'm glad you asked that, because it's anyone and everyone, all socioeconomic levels, all professions, anyone.
Yeah, the reason why I asked, because one of the things that we run across is like when we're talking to people will say, no, I didn't even know that service was there. And then they automatically think it is there, and it's a certain group of people who qualify for it. And in y'all scenario here, it's anybody who's been impacted. We lost Louis, so we're gonna hopefully he'll come right on back in, and we'll continue the conversation. But for those of you guys who are with us out there, we're talking about Louis Cintron with the Family Justice Center. And
sorry about that.
No problem. That's one of the good things about this thing called social media. We lose you. All you gotta do is I'm gonna start talking a little bit, letting everybody know what we're doing, and you just come right on back in. We'll be right here. Same thing. It might happen on my side as well. So
with technology, and the weather's not the best today. Things happen, but like you said, being on the computer, we can fix things quickly.
Right.
But I do want to touch on, the question you asked about the areas, and I mentioned surrounding parishes, but I want to be a little more clear in that. Of course, we serve our immediate Rapides Parish, but the remaining 7 that we serve is Avoyelles, Grant, Catahoula, Concordia, LaSalle, Vernon, Allen, and Wynn. So we really have a really good reach of areas that we provide. And, Rapides is the one that, even though people don't know about us, that would be the one that's more familiar with what we provide. But we're, again, being proactive by bringing on people like myself to reach out to those other 7 parishes to let them know that those services exist, because domestic violence is everywhere. So we really want to reach out to those other parishes as well.
Okay, all right. In light of what happened up in Shreveport, what do situations like this reveal about domestic violence?
Well, the main thing is it's a taboo topic. I like to say a lot is, people they don't talk about it, and it's a tough thing to really try to help someone with, because a lot of times they don't know how. They don't want to overstep boundaries or make any assumptions. So, we see it all around us. I think people, if they really understood it, would recognize, okay, maybe that now that I know this, that situation seemed a little bit red flagish. So I think it's an issue that people don't want to or feel uncomfortable addressing, because a lot of times you might feel that you're making assumptions or overstepping your boundary. But if one of our goals is to really just educate people on some of those, what symptoms might look like, what to be aware about, because I'm sure we've all at some point been around someone or a situation that just didn't quite feel comfortable, or something didn't sit right in our gut. We recognize something, and you hear it a lot of times after this, situations like in Shreveport, there were clues, there were symptoms, there were, signs that something wasn't going right. And people always look back and say, I felt that, that I knew that wasn't, something told me that wasn't, or I could tell. But, if we can educate people on how to, in the right way, reach out to someone, be there for them, ask some questions, maybe so it doesn't seem like you're making assumptions, get involved, but how to do it the right way. It does exist. But again, I think it's just one of those taboo topics. We don't quite know how to feel comfortable to really address it or ask the right questions.
Now you talked about the signs. Take us down a little road and give us for example, for the person who's thinking about it. Like, say for instance, if it was abuse and somebody obviously had a black eye, this is that black eye came from somewhere. It may not,
right.
It might not have come from a fall. But what are some of the other subtle things that you could think of that come?
Yeah, like you said, you have your physical ones, which you could notice, a black eye or bruises and stuff like that. But there are some of those subtle ones that you might not recognize at first. And jealousy is a major one. You always, someone that shows up all the time unannounced. They're constantly calling someone else, keeping tabs on them and not really wanting to let them get far away, limiting their independence and ability to, go out with their friends or be somewhere else that they're not there. You also have people that are controlling, and those are one of the ones that's another one you can kind of recognize a lot more. Always monitoring what someone does, kind of questioning their decisions. Controlling the finances is another one. They don't want a spouse to work. They want to have that financial control. Someone has to ask permission to do something. That is a little bit that's that controlling side of it. It might seem a little peculiar or odd, but that definitely is one of those controlling factors. You also have unrealistic expectations. Someone is expected to be perfect or not make mistakes. That's a little bit on that controlling side. And when it comes to family and stuff like that, you see a lot of isolation. Someone gets into a relationship and they no longer have contact with their family. That's a huge red flag. That goes back to that controlling thing and wanting to make sure that they know exactly where this person is at all times. Blaming the spouse, never taking responsibility for their actions. And of course, cruelty or aggression is one that's, I think a lot of us could probably notice. Physical force. If you see someone that's cruel to animals as well, that's kind of an indicator of some issues that might be deep rooted that could come out on a spouse or something like that. um, sudden mood swings, rapid changes from, loving on someone to always being angry in the flip of a switch. That is definitely another one. There's a few more, someone that tells you that they had a past relationship or situation where they might have been abusive to someone. That's definitely sort of a forewarning that this could definitely happen again.
Wow.
And one that I like to mention a lot is, controlling through your phone or cell phone or computer or something like that, monitoring somebody's devices, always checking to see who called or who you got a text from. That goes back to that umbrella of that controlling thing. So if those, I mean, that's a quite a few. There are others, but those are some of the ones that might not be as obvious. But if your guy friend or girls, their girlfriends, and you notice these things, those are ones that you want to kind of try to have conversations with that other individual, not in the sense of assuming that this is happening, but question them and see what's going on, see why someone is acting this way. But like you said, other than your physical items, the black eyes and bruises and stuff like that, controlling is a major one and stuff like that, jealousy and all that.
Okay. So one thing that stands out to me about your center is that everything is all under one roof. What does that actually look like for someone walking in for the very first time?
Yeah, we do like to use the term, I say collaborative. We do say one-stop center or one-stop shop because there's so many facets to domestic violence that you really can't just provide the one service and be a holistic healing approach. So let's start from the beginning, for example. So if someone, say it's 3 o'clock at night, and someone is going through a domestic violence or domestic abuse, the first thing we would say is call your local law enforcement. Reach out to them so they can get on the scene immediately, stop the violence, break up the situation, separate the two parties. But then, through our great relationships through all the law enforcement, the next step would be they would reach out to us to help the individual either get a restraining order. They might need to deal with a custody situation, divorce, child support. We have the in-house legal team to help navigate all of that. But in that situation, restraining order might be necessary to get them out of that situation. And one of the biggest key factors that I find when talking with survivors is they didn't have anywhere to go. Their spouse controlled them through the financial, like we talked about. So they didn't really have the finances. Their family lives in a different state or out of town. They didn't have anywhere to go. So they sometimes they just continue this cycle of abuse, not knowing there's somewhere to go. Well, one of our great partners is the Faith House. So that allows the law enforcement to intervene in the situation, contact us. We immediately contact the survivor and we get them out of that situation, and we provide them, access to one of our shelters. Or, we've had to put survivors in hotels before because we have the resources to get them out of that situation immediately because they need to get out of that situation immediately. And then once we get them separated from the abuser, we get them into a safe house and to get them away from that individual. That's when the more of the assessment starts, the counseling. And again, like I mentioned, we have an in-house legal team. We have in-house detectives. So we really just start digging in and working with that individual from an emotional state to let them know that, hey, comfort's there, the resources is there. We have the means to help them continue that path, because when it comes to legal or children or divorce or those controlling situations, through the controlling nature of things, a lot of individuals, a lot of females, they don't know the next steps forward, and for a lot of people to navigate the legal system is tough. There's a lot of things, and this is an individual that's been a lot of times through a cycle of abuse, a mental breakdown. So the last thing we could expect for them is to know how to navigate the legal course and legal action. So that's where our in-house legal team comes into play. Our counselors, they work with them hand in hand. They guide them through this process with our legal team. We can help them, like we talked about, getting those restraining orders. And a lot of times children are involved. So, and if it's a married situation, how do we deal with a lot of, take a step back. We want things to work out, but sometimes when they just can't work out and a divorce is necessary and children are involved, we help them navigate that legal process as well. Because a lot of times, people will feel like they're stuck because they don't want their kids. They're worried about their kids. Are my kids going to get taken away? Are they going to have to go to the state? How's that going to happen? So we work with all of that. We have the team in house to help navigate sort of the divorce when it comes to that. If that's necessary, we help with the custody situations, the child support situations, all the legal documents, the court processes, and then we immediately start them on the counseling side of things because when they're in those situations, mentally tough on them, very, very mentally tough. So they need the love and support through counselors and group sessions. So we take them from getting out of the situation, seeking shelter, then we get the legal assistance they need, we get the counseling they need. And one of my first days working, and I tell people this a lot, it was a fun day with the Family Justice Center, is they said, hey, hop in our van, we have to go to Avoyelles Parish. And we had a table in the back. We had some end tables in the back. So, and what we were doing was we were dropping these off to one of the survivors. They got a house, and we're renting a house, and we were helping them get the finances they need to get that going. And we're helping them rebuild their lives. And sometimes that might be through donations of coffee tables or end tables, mattresses or box springs. So we get them out the situation. We get them to a safe spot. Provide that legal assistance they need. We help get the counseling they need. And then when it comes to the moving forward process, we help them find shelter or a home or an apartment. We help them, get back into the workforce where they can, be a productive, comfortable citizen again. So we really, and that's why people always use the, term one-stop shop, because we take it from a terrible situation to get them out of there, rebuild their confidence and their mental stability back up, and get them back into the workforce so they can be, a positive, productive citizen and get their children back if that was the case. So we do it from start to finish, and they're cared for, they're loved on, they're provided resources. We have some amazing nonprofits around town that might deal more with the children. We have the Children's Advocacy Network, who has CASA as well. So if there's children involved, we partner with that resource. We get the children the help that they need. So there's not much we can't handle when it comes to domestic violence. So it's, that's where a lot of people use a one-stop center or a one-stop shop, because we go from start to finish, from broken and battered to, empowered and productive is like we like to say it a lot.
No, where are you guys located?
Our main office is off Main Street in Pineville. It's 220 Hospital Boulevard, and I always use the identifier as the old Huey P. Long Hospital. We're right next door to the old Huey P. Long Hospital, which is across the street from the Huey P. Long Clinic. So we're right there in the hub between Pineville and Alexandria, which is a high traffic area. We just want to be accessible. There's but again, there's bus routes that go through there, but we do have vans, for example, and people that could go out and get people if necessary.
Okay. Let me ask you, for someone who's afraid to seek help, what would you say to them, real quickly? What would you say to that person who's, they know they need some help, and they're sitting back and they're rocking in the chair right now?
Right.
and what would you say to them right now?
If anything, we're just like any other healthcare provider. We have anonymity in our office. The main thing is just, take action now so something doesn't happen later that they would regret. So if anything, if it's just, hey, I want to just talk to a counselor to see, is this a true domestic violence situation? Is this something I should be worried about? Get the resources they need to help educate them to make the right decision. We don't want to make the decision for them, but we just want to help them have the resources, have access to things that they might need. Because if they're, if they're unsure of, like, hey, it seems like it's awkward or different or not right, our counselors, our social workers, this is their field of excellence. This is their expertise. So they can at least give the individual the resources they need to help make the decision themselves. Or, if it's providing them with the numbers they need, the local access, the local law enforcement, because if a situation does happen that they choose to go back to, they then have the knowledge and the resources to, is if in case anything bad does happen. So
Right.
really, it's just, hey, look, you don't have to do any big decisions right now. Maybe just give us a call, meet with a counselor, and learn more about your situation, talk about your situation, and then you can leave with all the resources you need in case something, not, something bad does happen. At least they can have the numbers and the quick access they need to get out of a situation. But again, we don't like to force any decisions on anyone. We just really want to empower them and give them the knowledge and the resources.
Okay. And the other thing is sometimes you hear people say, "Hey, I didn't know we had these resources in the community." Why do you think so many people don't know that these resources are right here for us to tap into? And then the back end of that, what do you think we can do as a community to make sure that the public do know that these resources are out there for them as well?
Well, like again, being a nonprofit, it's very different than for-profit businesses. For-profit businesses, I'm in a marketing and advertising background, so I
Mhm.
really help businesses, for example, get that message out there, what makes them unique, whether it be through paid advertisement or advertisement. But
Mhm.
being a nonprofit is a little unique. We don't really, we don't have social media ads, we're not putting out commercials. But what we're really trying to do is really tap into the community. And that is my role at the Family Justice Center, is to really immerse myself and our team in the community, tap into these community resources. And churches are, for example, are one great way to do that. We
Mhm.
really want to, I had a great conversation at Calvary Baptist Church with their women's group. There were 50 great women in there.
Mhm.
And all we did was say, hey, look, we exist. Here's what we do. Here's our numbers. Here's our resources. And here's how we can help people. Because then if those 50 people go and tell 2 or 3 more people, and those people tell 2 or 3 more people, then we can slowly get that word out there. But it is a unique spot being a nonprofit. But our goal is to really immerse ourselves in the community through law enforcement, churches, hospitals, and various groups, to really just spread the awareness. But we are being proactive. Wendy Powell, our executive director, is thinking outside the box on ways she could bring in people like myself to say, hey, look, like, how do we tap into the community to let them know we exist? We don't do ads and commercials and stuff like that, but what we do have access to is great media like yourself, local news stations and radio stations that they give us great airtime to be able to talk about the things that we can provide in this area. So
Mhm.
we're taking full advantage of that,
Mhm.
and really trying to just tap into our community and spread that awareness.
Yeah, and here's another question that I have. If if I'm a coworker, a friend, a family member of someone that I think is, having some problems at home, right? What can I do, by reaching out to you guys or whatever, to attempt to get the ball rolling? Is it anything that the folk who are on the outside looking in, is it anything that they can do?
Absolutely. Especially if it's a family. I mean, anyone that you're comfortable with saying these things, the number one thing we encourage is just listen to them.
Mm.
Be a shoulder for them, be someone that they could talk to, because they'll tell you a lot. They'll tell you more than you need to know about what's going on in their situation. But sometimes people just don't feel like they have anyone to talk to. So, I mean, even if it's a good friend or someone that you just an acquaintance, if you see maybe some of the signs that we talked about, the jealousy, the control, checking over their cell phone, you
Mhm.
know, probe into it in a light way, and the best way is to just ask them questions and just listen to their answers and just see what they say. Give them sort of a safe place to talk, and
Mhm.
hey, let's go have lunch, or come to my house, or let's go take a ride somewhere, let's go to Target, let's go shop somewhere. give them a safe place to get away and just talk. Let them speak openly, and offer support. Let them know that, hey, if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Don't feel like you don't have anyone to talk to. And then if we do our job and really get our services out there and our resources out there, then they can help advocate for those services as well. Like I said, if those 50 women tell 3 people and those 3 tell 3, it'll be more people that are educated about the Family Justice Center in Central Louisiana. So, if you have a friend or a family member, be supportive, listen, and let them know that, hey, there is a place out here that can provide the services that you need. You don't want to try to tell someone too much what they need to do. You need to respect their choices. Don't pressure them to do anything, because that kind of builds up a barrier that might be tough to get through. But really is just listening, let them tell you what's going on, and give them a safety plan with, hey, here's my number, give me a call if you need anything, and really give them an outlet in case something does happen. Because if sometimes when people have a large friend circle or something like that, they'd be a little embarrassed. Maybe this is something people don't want to talk about, maybe because of their career, the church they go to, the community, they don't really want to talk about it. But if you can ever break someone away and be one-on-one and just give them a safe place to maybe open up on some of these things and encourage them, and maybe just ask a few questions and see if they'll be willing to open up in something like that. Because something could be happening or something might not be, and it just might be taken the wrong way.
Right.
But listen, and then be an outlet for them. Tell them you can call me or text me anytime you need, if anything's ever going on.
Is there anything that we did not cover? Because I think we might need to have you on coming over here every other month or something like that, and
we'd love to do that. Absolutely.
To talk about this, because it's real in our community.
It is,
and it's probably something that's going to be here for a while, because we're going to be here for a while. So
right,
we're going to run across these kind of issues, and we really need to make sure that they know that these services are available to them. Is there anything that we didn't cover thus far, Louis, before we get ready to get out of here?
I think you asked a lot of the great questions that are unknown out there. I just want to reiterate to anyone that might be in this situation, or anyone that knows someone that might be in this situation, is there is a path forward. When I interviewed a survivor, and the main thing she said was she continued down this path of abuse because she had no family here. She wasn't allowed to work. She was underneath that financial control. She was getting abused. Her children were getting abused. And that to me seemed like the most common thread through all of this was just nowhere to go and no way to pay for it. So, and then, looking back, these same people now, month and year ahead are in a great spot, great job, independence, children are safe, making all A's in school. So I can give many examples of situations where people were reluctant to get out of it. They found out about our resources and our network of partners. We provided them a way out, provided them access to move forward with shelter and then getting a home, gave their children the love and the care and support that they needed. And at the end of the day, these are some strong individuals now moving forward. So anyone that might be going through this, look, there is a way to get out, and it's through the Family Justice Center of Central Louisiana. We have the resources, we have the network of partners in town. So don't feel like you're stuck. That's the thing I hear a lot, is people are stuck. No, there is an answer, and it's the Family Justice Center of Central Louisiana.
Okay. All right. Well, I tell you, Louis, this is some good information. I mean, I've learned a ton of information today. We certainly appreciate you joining us today and helping us to bring awarenesses to services available right here in Central Louisiana. Conversations like this one save lives.
They do.
And I mean, it's bottom line, it saved lives. And just as important, and they're just as important as our awareness, making sure people know where to go and what help is out there and available.
Well, I haven't mentioned our, fjcsinlaw.org is
Okay.
where if anyone wants to go to our website, it has there's a number at the top that has our hotline, it has an after hours crisis line, and it has our daytime phone number. So, through our website, fjcsinlaw.org, or our Facebook page, a lot of people are on social media. They can go to Family Justice Center of Central Louisiana. And that posts a lot of our day-to-day things and activities and involvement, but there's a number on there as well. But if fjcsinlaw.org has a lot of who we are, our mission statement, our partners and services, and most importantly, the numbers that might need to be called if something's going on. But again, if something is going on, call your local law enforcement so we can get you out of that situation, and then they'll contact us, and then we'll give you that safe path moving forward.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were on the same wavelength. Family Justice Center of Central Louisiana is located at 2220 Hospital Boulevard in Pineville, Louisiana, right there on the grounds of the old Hugh B. Long Hospital. You can reach them over there at 318-448-0884, or you could visit fjcsinlaw.org.
Perfect.
And as Louise said, you can, if you think you're in danger, call law enforcement. 911 is the quickest way to do that. I think on y'all's pamphlet, it also had an 800 number as a backup, and I think that to that National Domestic Violence Hotline, that's 800-787-3224. If I'm correct there. To our viewers, thank you guys for being a part of this conversation today on a Friday. That's just how important. We normally don't do anything on Fridays, but this is one that I don't think I wasn't gonna sleep too well this weekend if we didn't have this conversation. And if you can do us one big favor right now, is if you could just take this, if you're watching right now, just take it and share this conversation with somebody.
Please.
Yeah. Because it might be just the information that they need to get through. A special thank you to our silver sponsor again, Acadian Ambulance, and to our business partners, Sattler's Towing, Long's Product, Nader International Market, The Threadhead Embroidery, Elegance Beauty Supplies, and O'Mel's Farms. We'll see you guys the next time. Stay tuned. Next week, we got a good lineup coming to us on next week. Liz, if you can just hold on one quick second, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream.
Thank you, Jack.
You're welcome, man. Have a great weekend as well.
All right, you too.
This is Pastor Roger L. Green, Sr., pastor of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. We're welcoming you to our worship services on Sunday morning. Sunday school begin at 8 a.m. Worship services begin at 9 a.m. Come and grow with us, a place of faith, family, and fellowship. We would love to have you. Come see us Sunday morning. We'll see you there. Be blessed.
Hey, did you know Long's Products is a family-owned janitorial supply with mops, brooms, trash bags, and they even have food service disposables, carry-out plates, and to-goes? Check us out.